What is Star Wars? This is a question that many have asked and found out immediately because it's a multi-billion-dollar empire at this point. What actually makes Star Wars unique? Why do people care about it? I mean, why do we care about it especially? This is also off of, just general opinion online and stuff. Look, I get it. Maybe your grandma's ex-boyfriend has a different take on Star Wars than we do. I totally understand, but he's entitled to make his own video. So before we hop into it, actually, no, I don't have anything to say. Let's just hop into it.
All right.
What do you think, Nate? What makes Star Wars so special? I mean, it is an American space opera. That's how it's been described many times. In some ways, this popularized the whole space opera term, actually, and sort of spun off into all these different things. It's a story about family. George Lucas has said that before, and I really think that makes characters very human and open to connection. You have these characters like Luke Skywalker. He's the classic one. He, throughout the movies of the original trilogy, is dealing with his place in the universe. Who is he? Where does he belong? Where is he from? How does he fit into a bigger picture? And that helps, that helps young people, especially, who are asking those same questions, kind of see themselves in Luke Skywalker. I truly think that Star Wars is one of the epitomes of creating archetypal characters, or archetypical characters, there's a lot of ways to say this, and making them relatable.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing about Star Wars is, kind of like you said, the characters, but the storyline kind of behind the characters. Because you can have good characters. There's plenty of good characters in other, different products and stuff like that. But Star Wars is unique in the sense that there's a lot of different characters from a lot of different planets, and you actually care about them. The storyline is one that is written in a way that a lot of people look up to some of these characters. For example, like Luke Skywalker, like you said. There's plenty of young boys and girls, and I guess older boys and girls too, that really looked up to Luke Skywalker and kind of saw him as a hero, saw him as someone that they would like to be in their own life. And part of the reason for that is the storyline with connection to the character. He was a relatable person that people saw themselves in him, or at least who they want to be in him.
Yeah, they saw this archetype and they thought, I want to be like that.
Right.
I think that's interesting because this works, by the way, for a lot of different people. I think one term that comes up now, and I'm serious to the point where it's a meme and most people actually roll their eyes and don't care anymore when it comes up, is like diversity in storyline. A lot of people will just hear that and they'll be like, oh, so you just shoved something in here.
Right.
Star Wars was doing this before it was popular to do it. I mean, Princess Leia is a strong female character that kicks ass. She doesn't need
no man.
No, she doesn't. I mean, dude, she strangles Jabba the Hutt with a chain on her own.
You can't get too far, but yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. She's really badass. She's cool. She holds her own. I mean, that was an example of a character right there, and that was back in, the late 80s. I guess late 70s and early to mid 80s. Those were characters that were there. Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
He was a literally awesome black sci-fi character.
Right.
And I'm not saying that in like a rude way. I'm just saying like he was just a guy. And you could, like, that's the thing. If you were a girl and you saw yourself more in girls, Leia's there.
Right.
If you see yourself more in Luke, he's there. If you see yourself more in Han, he's there. You could see yourself in all of these different characters, or you could see the best parts of them, which is, I think, what a lot of people did and what you wanted to be. That's the whole thing with the Sith, too, is like what happens if you don't strive to be your best. You just let go and you take the easy way.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point you made about diversity. Star Wars did that not just with the human characters, but Star Wars has always been one that added like other species and stuff like that too. And I'm not saying like those are examples of diversity, but I'm saying in that universe, there is other kinds of living creatures too that all kind of meshed together and all lived in a society together.
Oh, Joker.
Yes. So, yeah, and I think it's also important to note that none of those characters were disliked, even. Like Leia, she was a feminist icon.
No, yeah,
even
seriously.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
And everyone loved her because she was written well, she was a good character, and people had really strong connections to her.
And this is not a slam on people who are fans of different parts of Star Wars. That's something we'll get to too, but I think people forget that.
Right.
They think that Leia became a strong character when she came into the sequel trilogy. That's not the case. She was a strong character from episode 4.
Yeah, exactly.
And George Lucas, who created Star Wars, which I think we talked a little bit about, who wanted to make this about characters and about family, and not just about war, but about interpersonal relationships and how people worked, and not just human people, but just the galaxy and different groups of people and how they got along. He was able to make all kinds of characters like this. So another example of this as well in characters is Padme.
Yeah.
Now, there are things with Padme where it was very obvious that they were done to make her gorgeous, and that's fine. But also at the same time, she's a really strong character. You know, in episode 1, it kind of comes out like she's out there kicking ass. It's like, no, I was the queen the whole time, and I was the one fighting by you.
Right.
You know, episode 2, she holds her own. Episode 3, she was great. And so Anakin is another example. People meme on Anakin, but whereas Luke gave young men who didn't know where they fit in the world, and I guess young people too, but you even pointed out that this was originally a character that it seemed that young men related to a lot, like right away. And then as more women got into Star Wars, they did too. Which, by the way, I'm not saying there were never women into Star Wars. Like, this is like a thing you have to tread carefully on.
I know, yeah.
But my point is that, like, for a lot of young men especially, this was like I want to be him.
Right.
You know? But for a new generation with Anakin, I think by this time more women were into Star Wars as well. This character appealed to people with anger problems. I'm serious, people who felt like they didn't belong. People who felt like they were the odd one out and they didn't know what to do, but they were supposed to be special.
Right.
You know, like kids from the age of early whenever on, if their parents actually take care of them, generally say, you're special, you're going to be important, you're going to do good things. Anakin was that. He was the chosen one. He was going to do great things, but he never fit, you know?
Right.
And he was always angry, and he couldn't figure out how to click with the Jedi, where he was really. I think that appealed to its own audience as well. And what I'm getting at is this is just another example of people seeing themselves in character writing.
Right. And it's also funny you mention that, because I was about to bring up that exact point. That's actually the reason why I fell in love with Anakin to begin with. You know, because I didn't watch the original trilogy till I was a little older, so I grew up with the prequels. And to me, Anakin's always been my favorite character, and the last year or so I kind of thought about it, and it's because I think I really saw myself in him too. You know, I have had an anger issue my whole life. And oftentimes I felt like I didn't fit in. This is not maybe a pity party. I'm just saying.
No.
I'm just saying,
I think it makes sense.
I have felt a connection to Anakin personally, and I think a lot of other people have seen connections of themselves in various Star Wars characters throughout their life. You know, whether it's the original trilogy, prequels, or even the sequel trilogy. There's a lot of people that fall in love with these characters because they have a strong connection to them.
Mando's another example of that, by the way. I do want to point out really quick, without spoiling The Mandalorian, Mando is a character where you see a religious zealot slowly seeing what the world around him is like, and that there are more viewpoints than just his, and maybe his is a piece of the puzzle and not the whole thing.
Right. Also, the Mandalorian has turned out to be Ben Quadrinaros.
That's true. That's actually true. Ben Quadrinaros was the true chosen one.
Exactly.
But it's interesting how there are these different types of characters for each thing. You know, I think we should move along. Do I have to clarify my stance on young men wanting to be like Luke Skywalker?
I don't think you do. I don't
somehow?
think you do. It's not awful. It's true. It's a fact.
I think
there's no way around it.
Well, the thing is, when I was a kid, there were a lot less young women into this stuff.
Right.
But now there's a lot more.
Right.
I think it's more common to be a nerd than not.
Right.
So I'm speaking from my point of view of growing up in the 90s.
Right.
So anyways, moving on from that, I do want to also point out that the Fantastic Universe is really a big draw for people to this entire property. I mean, think about it. You have unique planets. You pointed out every planet can have its own religions. It can have its own people groups. It can have its own sects. You know, like maybe, like for example, maybe you have this group over here that believes this thing. This group split off from them. They believe something slightly different. Each planet's kind of like countries, except they have their own countries on them.
Right.
So instead of just one world, it's thousands.
Yeah, and I think a good thing to prove this point is actually in the Clone Wars show. You know, there's a lot of different planets that get brought up in the movies. You know, there's plenty of them, but the Clone Wars show, a lot of different episodes, they actually go to all these different planets and deal with political problems in that planet,
Correct.
in that world, deal with many different kinds of people. And I think that's something the show really did a good job at pointing out is there's all these other planets in the universe, and they all have their own issues that they're dealing with. They all have their own people groups. They all have their own religions, their own languages, their own problems, their own everything. And that's something that is all a big part of the whole universe as a whole is, you know, you can have all these different planets, but each planet is unique in the sense that it has its own everything that's different from any other planet. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, on Naboo, you have like the problems with the Gungans and the humans there. You know, and then you can go to Geonosis. They have their own issues that they deal with. They have their own completely brand new storylines, their own history, their own everything.
But they all tie together in a way, too.
Yeah.
They tie together thematically. You know, the issue with the Gungans and the humans on Naboo sort of thematically ties into things with, like, Palpatine.
Right.
You know, and, like, using political strife to gain power. Things like that. There are themes that tie together all these different planets. And sometimes there's wars that do, too. Like the Clone Wars or the Galactic Civil War. It's really interesting how that works. I think, too, we talked about the unique characters. I mean, we talked about how you connect to them, but also just the fact that they are so unique. Anakin is not. Luke is not. Look, you can like or dislike Rey. Is not Kylo Ren, is not Yoda, is not Obi-Wan. These are all people.
Salacious Crumb.
Is not Salacious Crumb, is not, who was that? Bib Fortuna, the sexiest Star Wars character.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when we see him later on. You know, the Mandalorians, they're not the Sith or the Jedi. They have their own religion, stuff like that. Weapons, you talked about, too. These are iconic in Star Wars. One thing that's really cool with the tech in Star Wars is there's futuristic tech that looks old. It's like retro future, like the X-Wings.
Yeah.
They look like they've been around for like 50 years or something.
But it's like way more advanced than anything we have.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's something that's cool to point out is not just the people, but also like the weaponry in Star Wars is so unique and so iconic. Like, for example, just the lightsaber. Do you know how many people grew up dreaming of having a lightsaber in their life? You know, like a lot of people did that, and that's because in Star Wars all the different weaponry is so iconic and so unique, which is something I think that the movies and the shows and the games and all that stuff has done so well too.
So the last thing that I did want to say about Star Wars, just very briefly, and then we'll finish this up, is that it is accessible to literally everyone. You and I were talking about this beforehand. If you want to just be into the movies, you know, you're a not light Star Wars fan, but I guess a mainline Star Wars fan, you like 1 through 9, or you want to just watch 1 through 9 or whatever, you can do that. You can enjoy it. If you want to get more into the timeline, you can watch the spin-offs. You can watch Clone Wars. You can watch Rebels. If you want to get deeper into it as well, you can read books. There's canon video games. There's comics. There's Star Wars levels for everybody and anybody. You only have a little bit of free time. The movies are for you. You have an understanding of what Star Wars is, but you have more time or more investment. Watch the shows, you know, read the books. There's stuff here for everybody that gives you a fleshed out universe while also letting you enjoy it without consuming every single piece of media.
Right. And also there is different Star Wars products for, you know, depending on what your taste is in a property. For example, if you like a little more lighthearted, kind of just fun movies to watch, you should probably watch like the prequels or something, you know. If you want something that's super deep, super in-depth, the original trilogy is pretty deep.
Yeah.
If you like more darker, serious shows, there's The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There's plenty of books that have that same tone. You know, if you're more into video games, there's plenty of video games. So there's just stuff for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's done really well how it's so accessible. You can connect with everything in it. Honestly, overall, this is something where if you have not checked out Star Wars, I know most people have, but there are a few people who have not. It really is worth your time, despite sometimes, you know, fans maybe yelling about it too much, or maybe you hearing too many political things from Lucasfilm or anything like that. Star Wars is a great franchise. It's a space opera. It was originally designed by George Lucas. Many different people had hands in it, from Steven Spielberg, you know, all the way to George Lucas's wife, who helped him improve the product, down to now Disney running it, despite whatever opinion we or you have on how they're doing that. It's really fascinating. It's gone on for so long. Hopefully the future of the brand is bright. It looks like it is with Mandalorian, some other stuff, who knows. but this is why it's special, and this is why we love it. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts about Star Wars? What are your opinions? Let us know if you like it or if you don't. Be sure to check out the secondary Let's Play channel. Degenerate Plays is in the description down below, where we play through lots of different games podcast style with you in the comments. We hope to see you there, and we have a thriving Patreon, well, soon to be thriving, with over 80, that is right, 80 behind the scenes videos and special content for you. We hope you check that out. We'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day, and as always, stay shway.